Once upon a time, in a peaceful village called Amoke, life was simple and beautiful. The village was surrounded by deep rivers and clear lakes. The people of Amoke were known for their love of water. Almost everyone could swim like a fish. The men were mostly fishermen, and the women sold fish in nearby towns. People from other villages often teased them, saying, "The people of Amoke are not human. They are fish who live on land." But the people of Amoke took pride in their skills. In this village, there was a young man named Ekin. Unlike most men in Amoke, he was not a fisherman. Instead, he was a hardworking farmer. His farm was large, full of healthy crops, and he owned many goats and cows. People respected him for his hard work. But there was something unusual about Eken. He could not swim. Eken's life had not always been easy. When he was just 2 years old, his father, Mazi Madu, had sent his mother away. She had cheated on his father, and in Amoke, such a thing was a great shame. Before leaving, Eken's mother took him with her. They moved far away to a big town. Eken grew up there, never learning how to swim like the boys in Amoke. But life was difficult. His mother struggled, and when he was 18 years old, she passed away. Standing over her grave, Eken made a decision. "I will return to my father's land. I will make a new life for myself." And so, Eken packed his few belongings and traveled back to Emoke village. At first, life in Emoke was strange. Many of the villagers had never seen him before, but his father, Maazi Madu, accepted him back. Eken did not know how to fish like the others, so he became a farmer. Slowly, he worked hard and became successful. In a few years, he had a large farm, many animals, and workers to help him. The villagers admired him. They said, "Eken may not be a fisherman, but his hands bring wealth from the land." Then, something wonderful happened. Eken fell in love. Her name was Adana. She was the daughter of a famous hunter. Tall, beautiful, and strong, she was loved by many. When Ekene saw her, he knew she was the one. One evening, as they walked under the moonlight, he held her hand and said, "Adana, I want to marry you. I will bring my people to your father's house to ask for your hand." Adana's face lit up with joy. "Ekene, I cannot wait to be your wife," she said excitedly. She rushed home to tell her parents. Her father was pleased. "Ikene is a good man. You have my blessings, my daughter," he told her. And soon, preparations for their grand wedding began. The wedding was beautiful. The whole village celebrated. Ekene and Adana were very happy together. Soon they were blessed with children. One day, as they walked near the river, Ekene held his wife's hands and said, "Adana, since I returned to my father's land, my chi, guardian spirit, has blessed me. But ever since I married you, I have been blessed even more." Adana laughed softly. "Then we must thank the gods, Eken. We should take them a gift soon," she said. As they spoke, a loud scream broke the evening silence. "Help! Help! My sister is drowning!" Ikene did not think. He acted. He ran straight into the river, jumping into the deep water, forgetting that he could not swim. The moment his body hit the water, he realized his mistake. I I cannot swim." But it was too late. The river pulled him down. He struggled, but the waves were too strong. On the shore, Adana screamed, "Ekene! Ekene!" Villagers rushed to the river, but by the time they arrived, it was too late. Ekene was gone. The people of Amoke wept. It was rare for anyone to drown in their village. For someone to die in the river was a terrible thing. And two people had drowned that day, the little girl and Ekin. According to tradition, anyone who drowns must be buried by the river bank. If not, their spirit would wander forever. Days passed. The girl's body resurfaced and she was buried properly. But Eken's body was never found. Weeks turned into months. Eventually, the villagers stopped searching. They believed that the river had swallowed him forever. Years later, far away, in a big city called Enugu, a wealthy man named Chief Okafor had an only daughter, Olamma. Olamma was beautiful, and her father wanted her to marry into a rich and powerful family. My daughter, he often said, the home you marry into is more important than the man you marry. I want you to marry one of my friend's sons. But Olamma had a secret. She was in love with a poor trader named Ikenna. Her father would never approve of Ikenna. He was not from a rich family. Olamma knew that if she didn't act fast, her father would force her to marry someone else. So one evening, she made a desperate decision. Ikenna, she whispered, get me pregnant. Ikenna was shocked. Olamma, we cannot do that. But she was determined. If I am pregnant, my father cannot send me away. He will have no choice but to let me marry you. And so, Olamma became pregnant. Found out, he was furious. You have disgraced me, he shouted. Leave my house and never return. Olamma was thrown out, but she didn't care. She was happy because now she could be with Ikenna. Months later, she gave birth to a baby girl and named her Adana. A year later, she had a son and named him Ikenna. Life seemed perfect. But soon, Olamma became unhappy. I want to be properly married, she told Ikenna. Take me to your village. Let me meet your family. But Ikenna always had an excuse. Not now, my love. Soon, he would say. One day, Olamma had had enough. No more excuses, Ikenna. We are going to your village. Ikenna finally agreed. On the morning of the journey, Olamma was excited. She dressed herself and the children in their finest clothes. She bought gifts for Ikenna's family. As they traveled, they laughed and ate snacks. But Ikenna was silent. The closer they got to the village, the more nervous he became. His hands were shaking. His face was pale. And then they reached the village of Amoke. As soon as they arrived at a large compound, Ikenna stepped out of the car. Wait here, he muttered. I need to ease myself. He walked away, and he never came back. Olamma waited in the car for several minutes, expecting Ikenna to return. She played with her children, thinking he had just gone to relieve himself. But soon, minutes turned into an hour. Her heart began to race. Where is he? She muttered, looking around. The village was quiet and the air was warm. A few people passed by, staring at her and the children curiously. Finally, she stepped out of the car. She approached an elderly woman sitting under a tree. Good afternoon, Mama, she greeted politely. Did you see a tall, dark man in a blue shirt walk past here? The woman narrowed her eyes. Who are you looking for, my daughter? My husband, Ikenna. He said this is his village, but he left and hasn't returned. The old woman's face suddenly changed. She looked at Olamma with fear. Who did you say? Olamma repeated. Ikenna, my husband. He is from this village. Please, do you know him? The old woman grabbed Olamma's hand tightly. Child, how did you get here? Who brought you? Olamma was confused. Ikenna brought me, Mama. The woman's hands began to shake. She looked around as if afraid of being watched. Then she whispered, Come with me, my daughter. We must talk. Olamma followed the old woman into her small hut. Inside, the air was cool, but Olamma's body was burning with anxiety. Mama, please tell me what is happening, she begged. The old woman sighed heavily. Then she spoke. My child, the man you say is your husband, Ikenna, he is not a man. Olamma's breath caught in her throat. What are you saying, Mama? The old woman's voice was low and serious. There is no man called Ikenna in this village, but many years ago there was a man named Ikenna. He drowned in our river, and his body was never found. Olamma froze. What? What does that have to do with my husband? The woman stared deep into Olamma's eyes. Because, my daughter, you have married a ghost. Olamma refuses to believe. Olamma burst into laughter. Mama, please stop joking. My husband is alive. I have lived with him for years. We have 2 children together. But the old woman's face remained serious. Tell me, child, did you ever meet his family? Olamma suddenly paused. She hadn't. Did you ever go to his village before today? She shook her head slowly. The old woman continued. Tell me about the day you arrived here. What exactly happened? Olamma told her everything. How Ikenna had been silent, how his hands were shaking, and how he suddenly disappeared after they reached the village. When she finished, a whole body was cold. The old woman whispered, You have been living with the spirit, my child. And now that you have stepped into his true home, he has returned to the spirit world. Olamma refused to accept it. No, it's a lie, she screamed. She grabbed her 2 children running out of the old woman's hut. Ikenna! Ikenna! Where are you? She shouted. She searched the village, knocking on doors, crying and screaming his name. No one answered. No one knew him. The villagers whispered among themselves, fear in their eyes. A young man finally approached her and said, My sister, Ikenna does not exist here, but the name Eken is known in this village. He was a farmer who drowned many years ago. Olamma fell to the ground, weeping uncontrollably. Her children clung to her, crying as well. As night fell, Olamma had no choice but to sleep in the old woman's hut. She cried until she had no more tears left. And then, in the middle of the night, a cold wind blew through the room. Olamma's eyes shot open. Her body froze in terror. Standing in the corner of the room was Ikenna. His eyes glowed in the dark. His face was pale and sad. Olamma, his voice echoed unnaturally. She opened her mouth to scream, but no sound came out. I never meant to deceive you, he whispered. I loved you. I still love you. Tears rolled down Olamma's cheeks. Then why did you leave me? Why did you never tell me the truth? She sobbed. Ikenna, Ekene sighed. Because I did not know I was dead. Olamma's breath caught in her throat. What? Eken continued. When I drowned, my spirit did not move on. I wandered in darkness until I found my way to the city. That was where I met you. He stepped closer. Olamma, my love, I do not want to leave you. Come with me. The room grew colder. The wind howled outside. Olamma felt her body growing weak. Her eyelids were heavy. She could hear his voice echoing inside her head. Come with me. Come with me. She felt herself slipping away. But then, a sudden knock on the door snapped her out of the trance. Olamma, open up! The voice of the old woman. She stumbled backward, gasping for breath. Iken's face twisted in pain. I cannot stay any longer, he whispered. The door burst open, and the old woman threw white powder into the air. There was a loud screech, and Iken's figure disappeared into thin air. The wind stopped. The room was silent again. Olamma fell to the ground, sobbing. The old woman hugged her tightly. It is over, my child, she whispered. By morning, the villagers helped Olamma and her children return to the city. She never saw Ekene, again. She raised her children alone, never telling them the full truth. But sometimes, on cold nights, she could hear the wind whispering her name, and she knew he was still watching. Moral of the story: be careful who you trust. Love should not blind you from asking important questions. The past always catches up. No secret stays hidden forever. Not everything is as it seems. Always pay attention to red flags. Some things are beyond human understanding. Life holds many mysteries. Strength in adversity. No matter what happens, you can always rebuild your life. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and also leave a comment.